academicians, teachers, doctors, or anyone who is trying to succeed despite stress, anxiety, uncomfortable feelings. And today we will be talking about sustainable high performance and what generally lies as a base of sustainable high performance and how you can perform better, succeed in the presence of uncomfortable feelings, anxiety, and thoughts. And most important single question for any high achiever is what really genuinely matters to you, not what should matter, but not what others think should matter, but what really matters for you, because oftentimes we are setting goals that are not aligning with our values, or we don't think about what's really important for us, and as a result, somewhere in the middle we might feel frustrated, exhausted, burnt out, or sometimes it can be difficult to continue. We feel stuck, or even if we have achieved our goals, we might feel empty. And therefore, today we will be discussing how to avoid these challenges and what you can do if you want to create more sustainable motivation, performance, and to succeed better. And probably everyone joining this webinar has a different reason for being here. Maybe some of you may be feeling overwhelmed, maybe some feel frustrated with yourself, and maybe you feel like you have tried everything but nothing seems to stick or work, or maybe you are procrastinating, postponing what you want to do. And imagine that spending this time together was really useful for you. If this webinar, when this webinar ends, what would you tell that? What would tell you that this time was useful for you? What would you be living with that you don't have right now? And what kind of change you would like to see in yourself after listening to this webinar and to this video? Maybe it's a new understanding, a new perspective. Maybe it's some practical steps or ideas. Maybe it's a different relationship with yourself, or with stress, or with challenges that you are experiencing. And take a moment and let your mind answer what you really want to achieve, which version of you would like to see. Would you like to be more patient, more kind, more contributing, or maybe you want to be more confident or focused on your work? Maybe you want to cope with stress better, you want to become more resilient. So try to find an answer for yourself and keep that answer in your mind, because we will be visiting this version of you, and we will be adding other questions that would help you to understand yourself better and to understand what really matters for you and how you can achieve that version of you that you are trying to become. Now imagine that something from today's conversation begins to make a difference in your life over the next few weeks. What would be different? What would be the very first sign that things are moving in the direction that you want and you are approaching that version of you that you want to become? What would you notice, and would it show up in the way you approach your work? Or maybe there would be something different in the way you manage your time, in the way you speak to yourself when things don't go according to the plan. And if these changes continue to grow over the coming months, what would become possible? What you would be doing more? What would others notice about you? What would they see you doing that would tell them something important has changed? And as you think about that future, I'd like to ask an even more interesting and deeper question. What kind of person would you be becoming? Not, not what you would achieve, but who you would like to be, who you would like to show up as while you are experiencing these challenges, coping with stress, better managing your time, or just moving through life and trying to achieve certain goals that you have set for yourself. Would you be someone who trusts themselves more, someone who is calmer under pressure, most focused, most intentional, most present with the people you love? Maybe you would like to be more patient, more confident, more disciplined, and more compassionate towards yourself or others. And maybe you would like to experience more peace, and maybe you would like to become a person who fully contributes to people, work, and causes that matter most to them. And if that version of you were already beginning to emerge, and you have started slowly to approach that version of you, what small signs would tell you? So why this goal or hope is important for you? Because underneath every productivity goal, every focus goal, and every time management goal, there is usually something deeper, and maybe you want more peace of mind, maybe you want to be more active, maybe you want to take more action, and maybe you want to be more confident, or maybe you want to stop telling like you are constantly behind, or maybe you want to spend more time on what truly matters, and you want to become more fully the person you know you can be. And as we continue today, I invite you to keep that image in your mind, that version of you that you want to become, that you want to approach, that you want to see more often in your life. And because when we become clear about the direction we want to go, our small steps begin to make more sense, and it becomes easier to take these steps. And often the path forward becomes more easier to see. And according to acceptance commitment therapy, there is a difference between values and goals, because when you set a goal, it can be, for instance, to succeed in your career, to become more successful, to get promotion. And so these are goals, but if you choose a value, it should be related with your identity and something that is related with yourself, with qualities that you want to see more often, and maybe you want to be a contributing person. So you always can try to be contributing, and you may never arrive at that point, because you can always take more steps and to make more efforts on becoming patient or contributing version of you. But you may get your promotion, and the set goal would be achieved. But when you set goals that are aligned with your values, you would be less frustrated, you would be less exhausted, and more motivated, even if you don't achieve the real goal. And how would you know that this goal is really important for you? Is that after taking some steps, if you really genuinely feel that you are feeling like yourself, or this makes you happy, or this brings you closer to your authentic self, these are some signs that this is really something that is valuable for you, that is important for you. So values are not goals, and they are chosen directions for living. They describe how you want to move through the world, not where you want to arrive. For instance, if you value contribution through your work, it's a value. And wanting to be promoted in your work is a goal. And the goal is achieved, but goals run out when achieved, and values run out. So think about, for instance, Lord of the Rings. At first glance, it seems like the story is about a gold destroying the ring, and it's about removing the source of corruption and preventing a cycle where power keeps recreating the same destruction. And that's the outcome everyone is working toward. But if you see the whole story, if you step back and try to understand what's really happening, and if you try to find some values in this story, what we remember is who the characters choose to be while facing impossible challenges. For instance, think about Sam. Sam doesn't know whether they will succeed. There is a lot of uncertainty, there are a lot of challenges. He doesn't know whether they will arrive somewhere. He doesn't even know whether they will ever return home. And the only thing he does is he continues to struggle, to take steps, even when the road is not seen, when there is uncertainty. And he continues to act from friendship, courage, and devotion. And those qualities don't depend on reaching murder. And Sam can live those values every single day of the journey. So even on the days when progress is slow, or even on the days when he feels afraid, even on the days when he wants to give up, he still continues to take steps actually towards his qualities and his values and version of you he wants to be. Now imagine if Sam's only source of motivation was the outcome and was destroying the ring. What would happen during the long stretches when the goal seemed impossible? Probably he would have given up. Probably he would feel exhausted, tired. And what would happen when they got lost, when they faced setbacks? So, in this example, when people are able to find what's really meaningful for them, what's really important for them, and when they try to align their goals with their values, it becomes easier for them to continue to take steps even in the faces of challenges, setbacks, uncomfortable feelings, thoughts, stress, or any other challenges they might experience. And because he is guided by values rather than outcomes alone, he always has a reason to take the next step. And the same is true for our lives. Many people might say, I want to be promoted, I want to lose weight, I want to finish my degree, I want to be more productive. And those are important goals, but goals can only motivate us for so long because goals live in the future and values actually live in the present, and you can start to take steps immediately towards your values. And a goal might say, for instance, I'll be successful when I get there, and value would say, I can live this right now. And for instance, the goal might be to grow your business, and the value might be a contribution and starting to take steps even today. And the value might be creativity, and the goal might be to become a better parent. The value might be love, presence, or patience. And here is the important part is that there will be many days when you cannot control whether the goal moves closer, but you can almost always choose whether you take one small action that expresses the value. For instance, you can start writing one paragraph, you can start reading 10 pages, you can make one phone call, you can help one person, you can learn one skill. And values give meaning to the journey, not to the destination. And maybe that's why the story resonates so deeply, because when the quest is over, what remains is not the goal, what remains is the person the journey helped you to become. So even sometimes if we are not able to achieve our goals, uh, we are achieving another identity-based transformation, and everyone is changing during this journey, and everyone is gaining new qualities, new skills. And maybe that's true for us also. The most important question may not be what am I trying to achieve, but maybe it can be who am I becoming as I move toward my goal. And the ring is like an attachment to control, certainty, or avoidance of pain. And oftentimes, when we don't see the future, we don't know what will happen, and there is uncertainty, and maybe there are uncomfortable feelings, and there is no safety, and we don't know if we can succeed or not. During those times, if we find what's really important for us, we can take action at the choice point using those qualities and values that are important for us. For instance, maybe during the earthquakes, there were a lot of people and they were afraid. And I noticed that during the earthquakes, mothers were helping their kids. They were afraid also. There was a lot of stress, there was chaos, but actually they were using their qualities and values of kindness, contribution, patience, and they were supporting their kids or elderly people. So that's where values emerge. And when we stop bearing discomfort, and when we notice the ring and choose to act despite uncertainty, pain, or things we cannot control, this becomes the point of change and productivity. And why high achievers struggles with values clarity? It's because high achievers are often experts at goals, at clear targets, measurable outcomes, achievement milestones. But values, the why underneath the goals, are often underdeveloped, maybe not examined, or confused with others' values. And the result can be that achieving goal after goal while feeling increasingly disconnected from meaning. However, we can always change it, and this journey is not very short. Like everyone continues to learn about themselves, to understand themselves. Each time when you are making effort and trying to reach certain goals, and each time when they are discovering their goals, their values, they're learning something new. And there is always opportunity to grow, to develop ourselves, to learn new things. A most common high achieving suffering pattern in ACT therapy is that significant goal achievement, external success combined with persistent emptiness and anxiety. And if, for instance, you see a person who has achieved a lot of goals, but they feel empty and they feel anxiety, this might be related with not clear values, or maybe forgetting about why they have started this journey. And oftentimes remembering and reminding themselves about their about importance of about what's important for them helps to find their why and to feel less burnt out, and to connect to their meaning. And values clarification process. Right now your brain thinks you are trying to be more productive, maybe to be more disciplined, focused, but actually you are the director of a movie. If you step back and look at your life, how do you get more things done? Maybe you are asking yourself, but what kind of movie in your life, what kind of movie is your life becoming, and what role are you playing in this movie? Because right now many people are intentionally starting in overthinking trilogy, Netflix original, and the season 1 is I will start tomorrow, the season 2 is why am I like this, the season 3 is new planner, same chaos. And if you will try to rewrite the script, uh, and maybe this one would sound dramatic, but uh, imagine your life that is a movie, and you jump to the final scene, and it's not very dark, don't worry, it's not a thriller, but imagine that you are, for instance, the end of credits moment, and now try to freeze the frame, try to freeze your life, that scenes of your life, and try to camera zoom out, and people are describing your character, not your job title, but not your achievements, but not also your to-do list completion rate, but you as human being. And the question is, what do I want them to say about how I showed up in life? And at that point, people find that maybe they want to be more contributing, maybe they want to be kinder, maybe they want to be more active, more focused, more present. And considering your life from different perspectives can help you to find new insights about what you really want, what you really value. And uh, probably they will not say that you had amazing Google Calendar color coding skills, and maybe they would say that you were kind even when you were stressed, and you were contributing to others even when you were tired. Maybe they would say that you showed up even when things felt hard, or you didn't give up on people easily. And maybe they would say he has tried even when there was uncertainty, he was unsure. Because no one in the movie says, well, I loved how perfectly they optimized their email inbox. And oftentimes we are spending too much time trying to be perfect, trying to organize, to plan perfectly, or worrying about things that we cannot be disciplined, that we cannot be good enough, whereas we are losing a lot of energy and time on things that are not really so important. And it's not an Oscar winning material. The exercise is basically asking you, what kind of character do you want to be when the credits roll? And now imagine something even more powerful. Uh, let's imagine that you are 90-year-old and you are sitting somewhere comfortable, maybe in a chair, maybe in a sofa, and you see yourself. Maybe you're just judging your younger self from a distance, like, and saying, oh, sweetheart, no. And your 90-year-old self is looking at you right now, and maybe the old version of you is not angry, not critical, and they say, listen, I've lived through everything you are worrying about, and I can tell you what actually mattered. And now ask, what would that version of you tell you to stop overthinking about? Maybe you would say to yourself that um, there is no point in overthinking or worrying so much, stressing so much. Maybe you would like to tell to yourself to take more action, to be more active, to not to wait things to be perfect. And maybe you would say to yourself to spend more time with people whom you love, whom you value. And probably they wouldn't say to better organize your planner color scheme. Or maybe that version of you would tell to yourself, start earlier, stop waiting to feel ready, call the people you care about, do the things that actually matter to you. And most 9-year-olds are not obsessed with productivity hacks, and they are usually like, I wish I didn't waste so much time worrying about things that didn't matter. So this exercise is actually helping us to understand what's really important for us. And future, you're giving present, you are very polite reality check. Now let's bring it back to real life. Imagine your life is like Google Maps. And instead of destinations like coffee shop or gym, there are some areas and fields like relationships and health, career growth, rest, fun, creativity, contribution, learning. And the funny part is that most people are like, I want a meaningful life, but their GPS is set to scrolling Instagram for 3 hours and hoping for inspiration or taking snacks all the time. And now we pause and ask, what matters to me? And the second question, how much am I actually living there right now? And oftentimes we notice that um, it's contradictory what's important for us and how much time and efforts we are spending on those areas. And sometimes people might say health matters to me, but body is on sleep mode and stress snacks, and maybe growth matters to them, but brain is on autopilot, replaying old worries and stories. So this exercise is not about guilt or to make you feel ashamed. It's a gently reality check and helping you to realize, are you really building a life that matches what you say matters to you? And most people think that motivation comes first. However, something is more profound is happening. What your actions match your values, your mind becomes noisy, it gets distracted, it gets bored, and overthinking increases, procrastination increases, and doubt increases. And now, not because you are broken, but because your system is basically saying, we are off track and can we please adjust direction? And overthinking is often just a loud version of, I care about this, but I don't know how to move toward it yet. And how do I force myself? And instead of trying to force yourself to do everything, maybe you can try to ask, what kind of person am I trying to become in this situation? Because productivity is not the goal, alignment is the goal, and action that matches values is the goal. And once that clicks, you stop trying to hack your motivation and you can start asking, what would the main character of my life do in this scene? And then, just like a goal movie, you take the next step, even if it's small, even if it's imperfect, and even if your mind is still arguing in the background like a dramatic side character, because the movie doesn't move forward by thinking, it moves forward by taking action. And oftentimes I'm also noticing that sometimes people feel burnout or they don't feel satisfied with their goals or efforts because sometimes they realize that things that they thought were important for them are just imposed by culture or by other people, and what they thought was important for them is not actually important. And this is the point where like they might become upset, but there is always chance to find out what's really important for them, what do they care about, and realigning their life and plans according. accordingly. And what have you done in the past when you felt more authentic to yourself, or as if you were doing something meaningful? Maybe you felt happy, maybe you felt confident, maybe you felt disciplined. And what helped you to achieve that version of you? Which environments, which people helped you, which skills helped you to achieve that? And what were you doing? Who were you with? What made it feel meaningful? These questions identify existing values aligned performance and conditions where intrinsic motivation is highest. And values across life domains. ACT values work covers all major life domains, and in psychotherapy, we are helping to divide a person's life into important domains, fields, such as relationships, work, career, personal growth, education, health and physical well-being, community and society, leisure and creativity, spirituality or meaning making. And high achievers often discover that a profound imbalance. Sometimes they are investing on just one field, whereas neglecting or forgetting about the other fields. And whereas the real well-being is a balance of different domains, and the values goals gap is more painful, where important values are oftentimes underestimated. And this point of awareness becomes the first step towards change. Once a person is able to notice where values are lacking, or where the efforts or action is lacking, they will be able to compensate and to rearrange, to change their efforts, and to design their lives accordingly to what matters for them. And acting on values when anxiety is present. Maybe you have noticed that when you have uncomfortable feelings such as fear, anxiety, oftentimes we might be distracting ourselves or avoiding, procrastinating. And noticing those points of stuckness is the first step towards awareness. Once we are able to notice it, we can always choose to respond differently and to choose different behaviors. And oftentimes also noticing sometimes when you felt anxious but you were able to take steps despite anxiety and succeed, are moments of awareness. And this means that anyone can feel anxious, and anxiety just tells that you matter about your work, about your career, or the job you are trying to do. And taking steps even in the presence of anxiety is another source of motivation and progress and high performance. So changing your relationship with uncomfortable thoughts, feelings is important. And living direction of values daily. Values are not destinations, they are compass directions, and every day offers opportunities to live in that direction. And sometimes setting intentions, which qualities, which values you would like to see more often today, and setting some plans or certain times when you would like to see these qualities more often in your life, can be another strategy to create more meaning in your life. And values mapping exercise. You can take around 30-45 minutes with no distractions. Find a quiet place and write your answers to what would the person I deeply admire be doing with their life? What would I do if I knew I would not be judged? What would I regret most not having done? And these questions begin to reveal authentic values and what really is important for you. And rating 10 life domains on 2 scales, starting of importance from 0 to 10, and current engagement from 0 to 10 would also help you to find out some gaps in certain fields that are lacking, and to make more efforts on that fields. And daily values check-in. Each morning asking yourself, what's one thing I can do today that aligned with most important value? And each evening asking, did I live in the direction of my values today, even imperfectly? And this daily practice maintains awareness of values rather than reserving for crisis. And identifying one value that's important to you but significantly undeserved in your current life, and identifying one small committed action in this direction is another strategy. So we tried to briefly share some strategies from acceptance commitment therapy and solution-focused grief therapy. I hope this session was helpful for you. If you have any questions or comments, you are always welcome to leave your comments and questions, and I will be glad to answer them in the next sessions. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on your notifications if you want to follow a new content. Take good care of yourself. Thank you for your time. Thank you for your coming. See you in the next videos again.